You know, we like talking about Abby Phillip only because Scott Jennings is on her show. We made the point yesterday that the only reason people watch is for Scott Jennings, but now enter another Scott, Scott Walker. Scott Walker is the president of Young America's Foundation, but of course, you know him as the former governor of the state of Wisconsin. He was campaigning all over Wisconsin for this last Tuesday's special election. And for some post-election analysis, he joined Abby Phillip right there on CNN. And then Ms. Phillip made the really, really bad mistake of telling a lie about that campaign to a man who was all over the state, campaigning every single day, tirelessly. And what happened next is absolute brilliance.
Elon Musk for a second, because I mean, it is true that he spent $20 million on affiliated groups that were involved in this race. Was it a risk for Republicans to put all their eggs in that basket? Not only did he spend the money, he came to the state.
Right.
He came to the state. He talked about cutting Medicaid, Social Security through Doge. Bringing those issues up.
Actually, he never talked. He explicitly said in Green Bay that he would not cut Social Security.
Well,
that's exactly what he said.
Talked at his rallies.
No, other people said about that, but I was there. I watched it.
Okay.
He did not say he was going to cut Medicaid.
Other people at his rallies who work for Doge, who work for Elon Musk's organization, talked about those issues.
No, I was at the rally. Not a one of them said that. That's what protesters said, but nobody there actually said.
Do you think that there are risks here?
There are. People believe the lies that people are saying about that. But that's not at all what they said. If people believe that Medicaid and Medicare is going to be touched, that's just a flat, outright lie. What he talked about are people who are over 120 years old, who clearly are not alive.
Well, the reason I brought it up is
Social Security or Medicaid.
Okay, well,
that's totally wrong. I think
just to sort this out, the reason I brought this up is because the claim here is that there's massive, widespread fraud, and that's all they're addressing. That's obviously a disputed claim because it's not true that 120-year-old people are getting Social Security checks. The checks stop at a certain point automatically because those checks and balances
but those Social Security numbers get counted for various parts of the federal government. So they count, they don't get a benefit directly to those people, but they count for money that gets allocated to different departments in their budget. And they shouldn't be. If somebody's no longer alive, they shouldn't be able to count that.
I guess my fundamental question was, what are the risks here of Elon dabbling in elections for Republicans going forward?
Well, again, I think in the end, he's going to have to continue to make the case. Part of the reason why when we talked about our recall, what flipped things for us early on in that recall process, Time Magazine called me Dead Man Walker. And the reason was because all the narratives coming out from the press, coming out from the left, were about all these horrible, egregious things. Once we started to give examples of things we were actually doing, not the things the press said, not the things that our opponent said, but the things that we were actually doing, when we ended up going before the voters in the final election in the recall, we actually won by more votes than we did. So I think that what's paramount for him or anyone else aligned with him is keep giving actual examples of what they're doing. Set aside things like Social Security and make it abundantly clear that that's not being touched. But if there's waste, fraud, or abuse, spell it out, make the case, and bring it to the voters.
Now, we love Governor Scott Walker over here, have loved him ever since the left hated him back in 2010 in Madison, Wisconsin. Remember the whole Occupy the Capitol thing? Remember the whole insurrection problem on January 6th? Trust me, the left did that to the state house in Wisconsin for a month when Governor Walker was in the state house. But boy, you don't hear the media talking about that very much. In fact, MSNBC actually broadcast all of their primetime shows from the lawn outside the Capitol building while the occupiers had taken over the interior of that Capitol in Madison. Go ahead and look in your history books. That's what happened. We love Scott Walker and always have ever since that time, and continue to as he leads Young America's Foundation, a great organization that we've got a nice relationship with. But I want to tell you, I'm really happy that we were able to enjoy, appreciate, and put a spotlight on Governor Scott Walker's final appearance on CNN, because they are never going to have him back after that. This is amazing what he was able to do with a smile on his face, by the way, which, again, I love the happy warriors of my generation who are able to tell the truth, get a little energetic about it, push back as much as we possibly can, and still maintain a happy attitude about it. Watch this with me, shall we? Because it needs to be broken
back to Elon Musk for a second, because, I mean, it is true that he spent $20 million on affiliated groups that were involved in this race.
She doesn't mention the more than $20 million that was spent by J.B. Pritzker and George Soros and affiliated groups and other outside. In fact, did you know that 77% of the money that went to Ms. Crawford, the liberal who was running in the Supreme Court seat here in the state of Wisconsin, 77% of her money came from outside of the state of Wisconsin? I mean, while you're bringing up the Elon Musk money, which is a legitimate issue to bring up, isn't it relevant to inform your readers about that little data point? That the liberal candidate got 77% of her money from outside the state of Wisconsin? I think it is. Abby Phillip didn't think it was relevant. That's fine. Governor Walker lets that one go.
Is it a risk for Republicans to put all their eggs in that basket? Not only did he spend the money, he came to the state.
Right.
He came to the state. He talked about cutting Medicaid, Social Security through DOGE, bringing those issues up.
Actually, he never talked. He explicitly said in Green Bay that he would not cut Social Security.
Well,
that's exactly what he said.
Talked at his rallies.
No.
Now, what's about to happen here is a real tell about Abby Phillip and her lack of research and her lack of ability to actually, draw on her knowledge of the situation on the ground in Wisconsin. You just heard her say that Elon Musk talked about making cuts to Social Security and Medicare through DOGE, right? And Governor Walker immediately said, no, he actually didn't say that. He actually explicitly said the opposite. Now, Governor Walker is about to say something here. He's about to say other people made those claims. Now, when Governor Walker says other people made those claims, he's talking about the protesters. He's talking about the liberals. He's talking about the Democrats. He's talking about the media. Abby Phillip is going to act like a smart girl here. Abby Phillip is going to take what Scott Walker said, misinterpret it, and say, oh, well, yes, that's right. Other people on behalf of DOGE made those claims, because she doesn't understand. She doesn't get it. She's going to act like she does. So it's a double gotcha that I don't think Governor Walker really meant to happen. It wasn't a setup, but boy, oh boy, she made it a lot worse for herself, right? Watch.
Talked at his rallies.
No. Other people said about that, but I was there. I watched it.
Okay.
He did not say he was going to cut Medicare.
Other people at his rallies who work for DOGE, who work for Elon Musk's organization, talked about those issues.
No, I was at the rally. Not a one of them said that.
That's
what protesters said, but nobody there.
You see what happened there? Governor Walker says, no, he didn't say that. Other people. And she goes, oh, yes, okay, thank you. Other people who work for DOGE. So she's acting like she knows what she's doing, when, of course, obviously she doesn't. And then she takes his talking point and pretends that it's, part of her wealth of knowledge of what happened on the ground there. And she, I misspoke. He didn't say it, but other people who work for DOGE said it. I mean, it's just a double piece of propaganda that Abby Phillip threw out there, and Governor Walker absolutely smashed it in real time while on the air, live on the set. And by the way, my favorite part of this, look at Jake Tapper's face. Blow it up. Let's see Jake. Let's see Jake as this is, and Dana Bash as well, as this entire thing is transpiring. Because, can I do the thought bubble of Jake Tapper right here? Can I just let you know what Jake is thinking with that look on his face? Who does this woman think she is? It's my job to lie and misrepresent things and try to push them past Scott Walker, not her. She's stay in your lane, Abby. I'm Jake Tapper. It's my job to pretend like I know more than everyone else in the room and lie and carry the water for the Democrats. That's why Jake is very upset right here. Now, where would Abby Phillip get this idea? Where would Abby Phillip suddenly think, clearly, Elon Musk and DOGE are trying to destroy Social Security and Medicaid by making all of these cuts? Where would she get that idea, I wonder?
Now, their goal is clear. Destroy Social Security from within. Make it so unworkable, so inefficient, that Donald Trump has the pretext to slash benefits, to kill it, and then privatize the program.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just demonstrated to you that Abby Phillip's reflex, Abby Phillip's baseline for her presentation on CNN on election night, and a misrepresentation of facts, an outright lie that got caught in real time from Scott Walker. It was in her DNA. It was in her bone marrow to make that claim, because she is literally repeating talking points from the Democrats. That's who she is. That's what she does every time. Gee, Abby, where did you get the idea that Elon Musk said he was going to cut Social Security through DOGE? I don't know. It just sort of came to me, I guess. Literally the talking points of the Democrats. Also on CNN, look at that guy. Look at that face. That's a face right there. Oh, how many great faces does he make that we want to just freeze and promote. That's a good one, Scott. He does it on purpose, doesn't he? Scott Jennings, take it out. We got a double Scott. Wouldn't that be a great CNN primetime show? Scott and Scott, Walker and Jennings. Let's go.
What the administration is doing, only 33% said because they like what the administration is doing. So if we want to just keep
question, who's more popular right now, Donald Trump or congressional Democrats?
doesn't matter. Donald Trump happens to be the president, doesn't he?
It doesn't. He's sitting at 50-50.
Going
You're sitting
down.
at 20-80.
He's at
honestly.
48-50, actually, and increasingly people. Oh, you want to call the AP and tell them
You
they're
want to call
closed
CBS News?
Sure.
All right.
Call him
Okay.
up.
We're okay.
I mean,
we're not going to go to
Google
Matt
it.
over
But more importantly,
polls. We're not going to.
his numbers are going. His approval ratings are going down.
Where are yours
All right.
headed?
We got to leave it there.
Doesn't
Coming
matter.
up next.
In charge.
That's painful, but that's great. I love that. Again, happy warriors. That's who we are, man. I know there's a lot of people who do what we do, whether it's a streaming show like this or appearing on a panel show like that, and they pound the table and they yell and they rah, and they right. You know what? No, we're happy. We're winning. We're in a great mood. We are the happy warriors. That's the face. Scott Walker, that's the face. That's what you got to get. But did you notice again, Abby Phillip? Abby Phillip, the host of the show, the moderator of the panel discussion, really just trying to keep the trains running on time. Nope. Constantly interrupting Scott Jennings, constantly putting a stop to the conversation when the conservative is actually making a killer point. It doesn't stop them from winning the argument, but boy, she does her best, doesn't she? You want another example? We've got another example.
You mentioned free speech, which we already know that people are being deported on the basis of not being able to have certain types of speech that this administration doesn't like. I mean, those are things that are happening right now in this country. You're talking about Europe, but that's happening here.
Yeah, well, I would remind you that over the course of the last several years, the left in this country has undertaken a massive effort to suppress the speech of conservatives. And to this day, the message from the left is,
I think
if you don't say
I'll
what
give
we
you
like,
that.
we will engage in violent acts against you.
I'll let you and
shut
Dan
up.
in a second, but let's just, you mentioned.
So once again, she interrupts him, but also once again, the false premise of conservatives somehow trying to censor free speech, conservatives trying to control what's being said out there and trying to silence the left. I'm sorry, did you not live through the pandemic? Did you not see what social media companies did at the behest, at the demand of the Biden administration? Did you not see what happened with the Hunter Biden laptop story? Did you not see what continues to go on? By the way, if we're talking about silencing political voices in America, could we look at the makeup of the panel on your own show? And across your entire primetime lineup on CNN, where are the conservative voices? Is this fair and balanced? Is this equal time? Do you have as many conservative voices on the air as you do left voices? Of course not. Of course not. But no, absolutely. Let's set up the premise that it's conservatives who are afraid of free speech. The conservatives are trying to silence the voices coming from the left. Absolutely. And meanwhile, if you drive a Tesla around America, you've got to keep your head on a swivel and make sure that somebody's not coming up and trying to destroy it because they're so tolerant. Great job, Scott Walker. Great job, Scott Jennings. Abby Phillip, back to the drawing board, my friend.